There's no question that over the last couple of years, Adidas has popularized laceless football boots, and being that the main competitor to Adidas is Nike, people are wondering whether or not Nike is going to come out with their own laceless football boot to compete against Adidas. And the answer to that question is that I don't know 100% for sure that it will ever happen, but if it does, it's going to be because of this right here, the brand new Jordan 33, which is fully laceless. And I know what you're thinking. This is a basketball shoe. The channel name is Soccer Reviews for You. You don't know what you're talking about. You know nothing about basketball shoes. And my answer to that is this. What are you gonna say now? While I dedicate most of my life to football boots, I really like performance footwear in general. Running shoes, training shoes, basketball shoes, it's all very interesting to me, and I do my best to try as many of these different models with new ideas and technologies as possible, because at the end of the day, it ends up all tying together. What a lot of these brands do is they introduce a new technology, it does well, and then it kind of makes its way into every division of footwear within the brand, which is why I'm showing you this. The brand new Jordan 33, the yearly numbered Jordan from Jordan Brand, which for those that don't know, Jordan Brand is just a part of Nike. They are not separate companies, but it is a laceless basketball shoe, which is very, very interesting because we haven't really seen too much in the way of laceless anything from Nike as a brand. And while the laceless system on this shoe wouldn't necessarily work on a football boot, I really do think that if we ever are going to see something laceless from Nike in the form of a football boot, it will be some variation of this. So here's roughly how this laceless system works, and bear with me because it is a little bit complicated. Everything starts with this gold rivet right here on the upper. This is where they actually rivet this super thin white cable to attach it to the upper itself. Now, this little cable looks like fly wire, but it's not. It's actually a parachute cable, so it's supposedly very, very strong. It starts here, zigzags across to this loop, zigzags across to that loop, and then kind of zigzags across and then disappears into the upper. Where does that cable go? Well, it goes to this little watch-looking like mechanism here on the bottom, where you can actually see the internals of the locking mechanism. This moves, you'll see it move in just a second. However, exiting the other side of this mechanism is more of that white cable that I can't really show you that well, but I can assure you that it's in there, and it attaches directly to this red strap made out of nylon. Now this red strap starts here, goes across the top of the midfoot, then kind of zigzags back across the front of your ankle, and then attaches right here by way of this lace loop, this being full Velcro, so you have a little bit of adjustability here. So what you essentially do is you put the sneaker on, you attach this here so it's all nice and tight, feeling really snug, and then you pull on this little thing right here that is clearly labeled as pull. And you'll notice that when you pull it, it makes this little clicking sound. That actually puts tension on this white cable and then also pulls on the end of the red band to tighten everything inside. And you can see on the bottom here, that little clear window, as I pull the thing, you can see it actually moving. So basically, once you have everything strapped in, you pull on this until they're as tight as you want them to be. And then when you're done your session and want to pull the sneakers off, you obviously have to loosen them. And you do that by way of this area right here. You can see it is clearly labeled as eject. And you're gonna pull on this little yellow and black cable that is sticking out of the medial side of the upper. Pull on that, and it relieves all of the tension on this locking mechanism on the bottom, essentially unraveling all of the excess cable that you have ratcheted down. It loosens this, it loosens the red area, you unstrap it, and you're free to pull the sneakers off relatively easily. Just for comparison's sake, here's how the Adidas laceless system works. It's a sock. So obviously this is very cool and very complex as far as laceless systems go, and having used these for the last week or so in the gym, I can tell you that it does work. Is it as effective as laces? I would say for the most part, yes, although it doesn't allow for the same level of customization as a regular lacing system would. So depending on what your preferences are, you might like this, you might not like it as much, but I think for the most part, this gets a pass as far as performance and lockdown is concerned, at least in the case of a basketball sneaker. Could this system, though, be implemented into a football boot? And I think the answer to that question is yes, although it would have to be heavily modified, and there are quite a few complications that I think Nike would have to overcome. Issue number one would be bulk. This is by no means a low profile basketball shoe. They are very bulky, it has a chunky midsole, the upper has plenty of layers to it, it's heavily padded, there's a lot going on here. You can even see when I have them on feet, they're just not low profile. You can't describe them as that at all. But when you're talking about implementing all of this into a football boot, you have to imagine that that has some thickness to it, thicker than the average sole plate. So that would be issue number one if you're positioning that in the midfoot area of a football boot, which I assume is pretty much the only area where you could hide a system like that on a boot. Then there's the issue of these straps. These straps are just a lot bulkier than laces would be, and I think if you're gonna make a laceless football boot, the idea would be to have less bulk across the top of the foot rather than more. As far as these thin cables are concerned, it would definitely work, but again, you couldn't have a hard spot like this right on the forefoot in the form of a metal rivet. That's something that could actually hurt your foot when kicking a ball. So there's lots and lots of things that need to be considered here, not to mention you can't have this free-floating strap across the top. That's not only a safety hazard, it's something that likely would break on a football boot when it's constantly being kicked against. And then there's the issue of weight. Technically, they could make a modified variation of this laceless system and put it on a football boot, but how much would that final product end up weighing? People seem to complain when a top-end football boot is over 8 ounces, which is by no means heavy, but when you're talking about what's out there right now and what people expect as far as weights go with football boots in general, especially top-end models, they have to be as light as possible. And quite simply, I don't see how you could take a lacing system like this and make it lighter than just a regular set of laces. And then there's the issue of durability. Obviously a basketball shoe, you're gonna be using it indoors most of the time, and if you are using them outdoors, worst case scenario, you're playing on wet concrete or something like that. In the case of a football boot, it's being exposed to all of the elements, and the reason why this system would be concerning, being exposed to rain, mud, dirt, sand, whatever it might be, is this locking mechanism here on the base of the sole. If any kind of water, if any kind of dirt or sand or debris of any sort got inside of that, I'm not sure how well sealed this unit is, it would probably just self-destruct and not work anymore. The added stress on this mechanism would also be concerning if you were to implement this on a football boot, because obviously if you're just using it to secure your foot in place, I'm not saying that this is not taking on excessive forces, especially as a basketball shoe. Some of these guys are absolute monsters, so the amount of pressure this is under, I'm sure is pretty tremendous. But if you added a really strong guy along with kicking the ball and constant stress on this entire fastening system on the top of your foot, I'm not sure again how this locking mechanism would hold up long term, which is really a huge concern if they were implemented as a football boot. Also, there's the concern of this really thin cable. I realize it's parachute cable, I'm sure it is very, very strong, but if they were to put this on a boot, I would have to imagine that it would need to be covered up with some kind of a lace cover to prevent this from getting snagged by other players' cleats or something like that. Obviously that could happen with laces, but if the laces break, you can just change them. If this were to break, basically the entire boot would be no good because the way that you tighten them just wouldn't work anymore. It's also worth noting, and a lot of people did not pick up on this in the press release, when Nike launched the new Phantom Vision Elite, they said themselves that this was intended to be a laceless football boot. The early prototypes that they gave to pros, that we saw pros wearing so early on, were fully laceless, but the feedback that they got from all of those pro players is that they wanted the lacing system put back in the shoe to work along with the quad fit system that you have here to create better lockdown, a customized fit, and just a better performing product overall. Nike themselves said that they could not make a laceless boot that performed as well as a boot with laces. Now, I don't think the laceless system they had in the prototype Phantom Vision Elites were anything like what we have here on the Jordan 33, but what my point is here is that a simple lacing system, as old school as it might seem these days, is still probably the best way of achieving customized fit, lockdown, and overall great performance in a way that's lightweight, not bulky, and just very, very easy. Everyone knows how to tie their shoes. This works, but it is bordering on just being overcomplicated for the sake of just being different. I really feel like the laceless system on the Jordan 33 can be summed up as very cool, but at the same time, kind of unnecessary. They could have achieved the same level of performance, if not better, with a standard lacing system, but as a proof of concept, this definitely does work, and I do like them quite a lot. However, is this a laceless system that they could truly implement on a pair of football boots? I wouldn't rule it out entirely, but I do think that it's unlikely. If we're ever gonna see a laceless football boot from Nike, it's probably gonna be done in a way that we don't even know about yet. Anyways, guys, that's it for this one. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to support it with a like. And if you are new here watching for the first time and perhaps want to see future videos of mine, don't forget to hit that subscribe button along with the little bell notification so you get notified when the next video goes live. I post a new one every single day. Let me know what you guys think though down below in the comments. Will Nike ever make laceless football boots? If they do, will it have a lacing system like this? I'm curious to hear all of your opinions down below in the comments. And of course, as always, if you have any questions for me regarding this topic, leave it down below in the comments and I'll do my best to get an answer out to you as soon as I possibly can. All my social media information is linked down below in the description as well, so follow me there if you don't already. And other than that, guys, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.